Your grandfather worked with his hands his whole life. He died with almost nothing. Your father worked smarter. Better job, better city, bigger paycheck. He retired with almost nothing. You're doing everything they couldn't. And some nights late, you feel it. The same ending coming for you. It's not bad luck. It's not the economy. It's not your salary. There's one thing that was never passed down in your family. And until you see it, you'll spend your whole life working for someone who did. Let me tell you about a man you already know. You've seen his hands, maybe in a photograph, maybe in a memory from when you were small. Rough palms, knuckles that never quite straightened all the way. A man who was up before the sun and home after dark, 6 days a week, for 40 years. He never called in sick. He never asked for more. He did what men of his generation were told to do. Work hard, provide, don't complain. And he did all of it, every single day, for 4 decades. And when it was over, when the body finally said enough, when the knees gave out or the company closed or the pension turned out to be smaller than anyone promised, there was almost nothing left. A small house maybe, a savings account that held maybe 2 years of expenses if nobody got sick, and a quiet kind of exhaustion that never left his face in the photographs from the last decade of his life. Here's the thing about your grandfather that nobody ever said out loud at the funeral. He wasn't unlucky. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't bad with money in the way people mean when they say bad with money. He was missing one piece of information, one idea, one thing that nobody in his world had ever thought to tell him. And because nobody told him, he spent 40 years doing what felt like the right thing, trading his time for money, every single day, without ever once asking whether the trade was fair. The man who works hardest isn't the man who earns most. He's the man who was never taught to make his money work while he rests. Your grandfather understood labor. He understood loyalty. He understood sacrifice. He never understood ownership. And that single gap, not a failure of character, not a failure of effort, just one missing idea, cost him everything he would have had if someone had sat down with him at age 22 and said, "Your time has a ceiling. Your money doesn't have to." Nobody said it, so he traded his time until he had no more time left to trade. And then it was over. This is the first generation, the one that worked, the one that believed work was enough, the one that was wrong, not in character, just in information. Your father watched all of this happen. He watched the man come home tired every night. He watched the savings stay small no matter how many were added. He watched what hard labor produced at the end of a lifetime. And he made a decision. He wasn't going to do it that way. He was going to be smarter. He was going to go to school. He was going to get a desk job, an office, a title with his name on the door. He was going to use his mind instead of his body, because that was the upgrade. That was how you did it differently. And he did. He got the degree. He got the desk. He got a salary that would have seemed impossible to his own father. 3 times what the old man made, maybe more. And for a while, for a good long while, it felt like the plan was working. A nicer house, a better car, vacations that didn't exist in the previous generation, a life that looked from the outside like progress. And it was progress. I want to be clear about that. Your father was not wrong to want more. He was not wrong to educate himself. He was not wrong to aim higher. He just made one mistake, the same mistake as the man before him, dressed differently, in a better suit, behind a cleaner desk, but the same mistake. He swapped manual labor for mental labor, and he called it freedom, but it wasn't freedom. It was the same trade, time for money, just at a higher price per hour. A higher salary is not a different system. It's the same system running faster. You still stop earning the moment you stop showing up. Here's what I saw happen with your father's generation. The salary went up, and the lifestyle followed it, immediately, automatically like a shadow. The bigger house came with bigger mortgage. The nicer car came with a longer payment plan. The private school tuition. The neighborhood that required a certain kind of spending just to belong to it. Every dollar that came in found a home before your father ever got to decide where to put it, because that's what a lifestyle does. It expands to fill whatever space income creates. And then it locks in. And suddenly the bigger salary isn't freedom, it's obligation. Just a more expensive version of the same cage. I want you to think about something for a moment. Your father's retirement, whatever it looked like. Was it the retirement of a man who had options, or the retirement of a man who had just enough? For most people reading this right now, the answer is just enough. Maybe not even that. 3 times the salary of the generation before. 40 years of showing up. And just enough. Why? Because the salary went up. The spending went up with it. And the one thing that could have changed the ending, the thing neither generation ever truly learned, stayed missing. Your father understood effort. He understood ambition. He understood upward mobility. The idea that if you worked hard enough in the right direction, the number on your check would keep growing. He never understood that the number on your check is always someone else's decision. He never understood that between the money coming in and the money going out, there was a window, small, easy to miss, invisible if you weren't looking for it, where wealth is either built or lost forever. He looked right past it, every month, for 40 years. This is the second generation, the one that worked smarter, the one that believed a higher salary was a different game, the one that was still playing the same game, just with bigger numbers. Now we get to you. You are the third generation, the one with the most information, the most access, the most tools, the most opportunity. You grew up in a world where everything your grandfather never knew is sitting on the internet for free. Compound interest, index funds, the difference between assets and liabilities, the 4% rule, tax-advantaged accounts, all of it, available, free, right now. And yet, let me ask you something honest, and I need you to sit with the answer before you move past it. 5 years from now, if nothing changes about the way you're currently handling money, where will you be? Not where you hope to be, not where you plan to be someday. Where will you actually be if the next 5 years look like the last 5 years? For most people, the honest answer is roughly the same place. A little older, a little more tired, a slightly bigger salary, funding a slightly bigger version of the same life. And the window, that same window your grandfather never saw, that your father looked past, still right there, still open, still waiting. Here's the thing about the third generation, about you. You know more than they did, but knowing and doing are not the same thing. And between knowing and doing, there's a gap filled with the life you're already. The subscriptions, the dinners out, the car that costs a little more than it needs to, the apartment that's a little bigger than necessary, the upgrades that happened automatically when the salary went up. Sound familiar? It should, because you just described your father's life, at a higher price point. The third generation has the most information in history, and they're making the exact same mistake as the first, just with better Wi-Fi and a nicer apartment. I'm not saying this to make you feel bad. I'm saying it because it's the only thing worth saying. The pattern doesn't break by accident. It doesn't break because you're smarter than your father. It doesn't break because you read more books. It doesn't break because you know what a Roth IRA is. It breaks when you do one specific thing differently. One thing, the same thing your grandfather never did. The same thing your father never did. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. But first, I need you to understand why it's so hard to do. Because if it were easy, the pattern would have broken already. The missing piece is not a secret. I want to be very clear about that. It's not hidden. It's not guarded by the wealthy behind closed doors. It's not something only certain people are allowed to know. It's actually one of the most talked about ideas in personal finance. You've probably heard it, maybe more than once. The difference between income and wealth. That's it. That's the whole thing. Income is what you earn. Wealth is what you keep working for you after you stop. Your grandfather had income. He never built wealth. Your father had more income. He still never built wealth. You have the most income of the three of you. And right now, today, the question is whether you're building wealth, or whether you're just earning more income and spending more of it, and telling yourself that's what moving forward looks like. Here's why this idea is so easy to hear and so hard to act on. Income is immediate. It shows up on the 15th and the 30th. You can feel it in your account. You can spend it today. It's real in a way that wealth is not yet, not when you're starting. Wealth is invisible for years. It lives in accounts you don't touch. It grows in fractions that feel meaningless in the moment. It doesn't give you anything you can show anyone for a long, long time. And here's the cruelest part. While you're quietly building it, while you're doing the right thing, the boring thing, the thing that actually changes the ending, the world around you is constantly rewarding the wrong behavior. The guy with the new car gets the admiring looks in the parking lot. The woman who just moved to the nice part of town gets the congratulations. The friend who takes the expensive vacation posts the photos and collects the comments. And you're putting money into an account nobody can see. You're saying no to things that would feel good right now. You're playing a game with a scoreboard nobody else can read. That's why it's hard, not because the information is complicated, because the immediate world makes the wrong choice feel like the right one every single day. The system is not designed to help you build wealth. It's designed to help you spend income. Those are opposite directions, and most people never notice they're moving the wrong way. Let me give you the picture your grandfather was never given, the picture your father almost saw but looked away from, the picture that, if you actually look at it, changes every financial decision you make for the rest of your life. Imagine two rivers. The first river is income. It flows toward you every month. Steady, reliable, predictable. It comes in at one end. It flows out at the other. Rent, food, car, subscriptions, the dinner out. The upgrade you told yourself you needed. The river flows through you and keeps going. Nothing stops, nothing accumulates. At the end of 40 years, the river is still the same river. It just moved through you. The second river is wealth. It doesn't flow through you. It pools. Every month, before the current of expenses carries everything away, you take a portion of what came in, and you move it somewhere it can't flow out. A pool that sits still. And over time, slowly at first, then faster than you can believe, that pool starts to generate its own current. Money that makes money without you doing anything. Income that doesn't require your time. A river that runs whether you're working or not. Your grandfather only ever had the first river. Your father only ever had the first river, running faster. The only question that matters right now, is which river you're building. I've seen this from both sides. I've seen the families where the pattern never broke. 3 generations, 4, all working hard, all earning decent money, all arriving at the end with just enough or less than enough. And I've seen the families where one person, just one person, somewhere in the line saw it, saw the window, understood the difference between the two rivers, and made a different choice. Here's what that looks like from the outside. They don't look rich. That's the first thing you notice. Or rather, you don't notice them at all, because they're not performing anything. They drive a reasonable car. They live in a reasonable house. They don't pick up every tab. They don't talk about money at the table. They just go quiet when the conversation turns to what everyone is buying, planning, upgrading, financing. And they leave those conversations with more than they arrived with, every single time. I want to tell you about one specific person I've known. I'll call him Marcus. You probably know someone like him, or you think you do, because from the outside he looks like the least interesting financial story in any room. Marcus was the first person in his family to understand the second river. He figured it out at 24, not because he was a genius, not because someone handed him money, because he sat down one night with a piece of paper and did the math on what his grandfather's life had actually produced, and then on what his father's life had produced, and then, quietly, on what his life was going to produce if he kept doing what they had done. The number at the end of that math scared him. Not the kind of scared that makes you panic, the kind that makes you go very still. He made one decision that night. He decided that before any expense was paid, before rent, before food, before anything, a fixed amount of his paycheck was going somewhere it couldn't be touched. An account he didn't check, an account with no debit card attached to it, an account that existed only to pool. It was not a large amount at first, $200 a month. His friends made fun of him. His girlfriend at the time thought he was being paranoid. His coworker said he was leaving money on the table by not putting it into something with higher returns. He ignored all of it. He just kept pooling. 200 became 300. 300 became 5. The pool started generating its own small current. Dividends, returns, compounding. Numbers that seemed laughably small in year 2. Numbers that seemed interesting in year 5. Numbers that seemed genuinely significant in year 10. Numbers that, by year 15, were doing something his grandfather had never once experienced in 40 years of labor. They were working while Marcus slept. The first generation worked while they were awake. The second generation worked smarter while they were awake. The third generation, the one that breaks the pattern, learns to make money work while they sleep. Marcus is in his late 30s now. He has a job he doesn't hate and doesn't love. He drives the same car he's driven for 7 years. He lives in a neighborhood his income could easily exceed if he chose to let it. And he has something his grandfather never had, something his father never had, something that the friends who laughed at him a decade ago are only now beginning to understand they don't have. He has options. Not the fake options of a high salary, which is really just expensive obligation dressed up as freedom. Real options. The ability to say no to a job he doesn't want. The ability to walk away from a situation that isn't working. The ability to choose how his days are structured based on what he wants rather than what his bills require. He's not retired. He doesn't drive a flashy car. Nobody at a dinner party asks what he does with any particular excitement. But the second river is running, every day, whether he shows up or not. And that changes everything about how he moves through the world, even if nobody in the room can see it. Here's what I didn't tell you about Marcus. The years in the middle were hard. Not financially hard, socially hard. There's a specific kind of pain that comes from doing the right thing in a world that rewards the wrong thing. And if you decide to break your family's pattern, you are going to feel that pain. I won't pretend otherwise. Your friends will get the newer cars. You won't. Their apartments will look better than yours. Their vacations will fill your social media feed, while yours doesn't. Dinners, when the conversation turns to what people are buying, planning, upgrading, you'll go quiet, because the honest answer is, not much, not right now. And some people will notice. They'll ask if you're okay. They'll ask if you need anything. Not to be cruel, just because from the outside, someone who isn't spending looks like someone who can't spend. They don't know the difference yet. Most people never learn it. There will be moments, specific moments, not metaphorical ones, where you almost break. A car you open the app for at 11 p.m. and sit there with your thumb hovering. A vacation everyone else is taking that you say no to. A birthday dinner where someone makes a joke about your old phone and everyone laughs, including you. But you feel it land somewhere real. I'm not going to tell you those moments are easy. They're not. They're the exact moments where the wrong choice feels completely rational, where the voice in your head says you've been doing this for years, and you're still not seeing results, and maybe you've been doing it wrong, and maybe you deserve this one thing right now. And maybe you do deserve it. That's the hardest part. You probably do deserve it, in every human sense of that word. You've been working hard. You've been patient. You've been saying no when everyone else was saying yes. But deserving something and affording it are two different questions. And the third question, the one nobody asks, is, what does saying yes cost me in the language of the second river? Not in dollars, in years. Every luxury you buy today is not just money, it's time. The time your money could have been working instead of spent. And time, unlike money, cannot be earned back. This is the cost of breaking the pattern. It's not a financial cost. It's a social cost. It's the cost of being misread, of being pitted by people who will one day understand that you were the one to be envied, of spending years playing a game with a scoreboard only you can see. Marcus paid that cost for a long time, and he told me once, in that quiet way people who have figured something out tend to talk, that the hardest years weren't the ones where the money felt small. They were the years where the social pressure felt enormous. "Everyone thought I was falling behind," he said. "I knew I was the only one moving forward, but knowing it and feeling it are not the same thing. For a long time I only knew it. The feeling comes later, when the numbers get big enough to be undeniable, when the second river is running fast enough that you can feel it even when you're not looking at it. That feeling is worth every dinner you didn't go to, every upgrade you didn't make, every moment you went quiet at the table while someone else described what they were buying. But you only know that once you're on the other side of it. Before that, you just have to trust the math. The moment doesn't announce itself. That's the first thing I want you to understand. You don't wake up one day and feel it. It doesn't come with a notification or a ceremony or a number that suddenly makes everything obvious. It comes quietly, usually on an ordinary day. A Tuesday maybe. You open the account the way you open it every Tuesday, and the number is different in a way that takes you a moment to process. Not because it's dramatically high, but because you realize, for the first time, clearly, undeniably, that the number went up this month not because you put money in, but because the money that was already there made more money, more than you contributed. That's the moment when the second river becomes visible, when the thing you've been building in the dark finally has enough current that you can feel it moving. For most people who get there, it happens somewhere between year 7 and year 12, after years of contributions that felt like throwing coins into a well that never echoed back, after the months where the market dropped and the number went down, and you had to make a conscious decision not to pull everything out, after the dinners you didn't attend and the upgrades you skipped, and the quiet years of playing a game with no visible scoreboard. And then one Tuesday morning it's right there on the screen. The math has shifted. You are no longer the engine of this thing. The thing is starting to run itself. This is what your grandfather never reached, what your father never reached. The morning the second river runs without you. The morning that changes what every day after it feels like. I want you to think about what that morning changes, not just financially, in every dimension of how you move through a day. You go to work differently, not because you stop caring about your job, but because you're no longer there because you have to be. You're there because you chose to be. And that is not a small difference. It is the entire difference. The conversation with a difficult boss lands differently, not because you're reckless, but because the worst-case scenario of that conversation no longer ends with you unable to pay rent. It ends with a decision, and decisions are something you can handle. Emergencies are not. The unexpected bill that used to become a 3-week crisis becomes a single phone call. The flat tire is a Tuesday errand, not a Tuesday catastrophe. The month your company announces layoffs, you don't lose sleep. You do the math on how long you could go without an income if you had to, and the number of months is longer than you could have imagined saying out loud 5 years earlier. This is what wealth actually buys. Not the things, not the status, not the freedom to never work again, the freedom to work on your own terms, the freedom to say no, the freedom to let a bad situation be temporary instead of permanent, the freedom to make choices from a position of stability instead of desperation. Your grandfather never had that freedom. A bad month wasn't an inconvenience, it was a threat. Your father never truly had it either. The salary was higher, but so were the obligations. The margin was the same. Thin, always thin, thin enough that a layoff was still a crisis instead of an inconvenience. You can be the one who has it, not because you earn more than they did, because you understood something they didn't, and you started building the second river before the first one ran dry. Your grandfather worked with his hands his whole life. He died with almost nothing. He was not a failure. He was not lazy. He was not unlucky. He was the last person in the room who understood money, because the only thing he understood about it was how to earn it, and earning it without building it, without making it move while you sleep, without understanding that time is the engine and not labor. Earning it is just the beginning of the sentence. He never got to the end of the sentence. Neither did your father. But here's what I know about the third generation. About you. You are watching this because something in you already suspects that the sentence isn't finished, that there's a part of the story nobody in your family got to tell, that the ending that kept repeating, work hard, earn well, arrive at the end with just enough, is not the only ending available to you. You're right. It's not. The window is open. It's been open the whole time. Your grandfather walked past it. Your father walked past it faster. You don't have to. The second river doesn't start with a large sum. It doesn't start with the perfect moment, or the right market conditions, or the bonus you've been waiting on. It starts with a decision, made once, automated, forgotten in the sense that it becomes background, but never broken. You don't need your grandfather's knuckles. You don't need your father's salary. You need the one thing neither of them had, the understanding that your time has a ceiling, and your money doesn't have to. There's always one person in the room who understands this, the one who leaves early, the one nobody notices, the one who goes quiet when the conversation turns to what everyone is buying. That person used to be someone else in every room your family ever sat in. It doesn't have to be someone else anymore.